My child, pause here for a moment. Do not let your hand move past these words as though this were just another message among thousands. Something has been waiting to reach you today, and the timing is not ordinary. You may have arrived here while carrying questions you have not spoken aloud, while pretending that your heart is calmer than it truly is, or while wondering whether the person connected to your soul has forgotten what once existed between you. But what you are about to hear was meant to find you at this exact moment. There is an important message resting behind their silence, and although you have not received it in the way you expected, heaven has seen every word they almost sent, every confession they swallowed, and every moment their heart turned toward you when no one else was watching. Do not rush away, because the deepest part of this revelation has not yet been spoken. There is something your soulmate wants you to understand before another day passes. They have been carrying a truth that has become too heavy to ignore, yet fear has stood between their heart and their voice. From the outside, their silence may have looked like distance. Their hesitation may have felt like rejection. Their changing behavior may have caused you to question whether the connection was ever as real to them as it was to you. But what you could not see was the private battle happening within them. They were not only deciding what to say. They were trying to understand why thoughts of you kept returning with such force, even after they had told themselves to move forward. There have been nights when your name appeared in their mind without warning. They tried to focus on ordinary things, but a memory of your voice, your kindness, your expression, or the way you once made them feel understood would rise from somewhere deep inside them. They did not invite these memories, yet they could not silence them. Something within their spirit kept bringing them back to a moment they had underestimated when it happened. At the time, they may not have realized how deeply you affected them. They may have acted casual, guarded, or uncertain. But now, looking back, they understand that something changed within them because of you. The realization has frightened them, because once a heart recognizes what is real, it can no longer find peace in pretending. You have wondered why they did not simply speak. You have asked yourself why someone who feels so much would remain so quiet. The answer is more complicated than indifference. They have been afraid of what your response might reveal. They fear that while they were struggling to understand their emotions, you may have learned to live without them. They fear that their delay has created a distance too wide to cross. They fear that when they finally speak, you will remember every moment they failed to show you what you deserved. This fear has kept them still, but it has not made the feelings disappear. In fact, their silence has only intensified what they are trying to suppress. Stay with these words, because something larger has begun unfolding behind the scenes. Recently, your soulmate experienced a moment that forced them to stop avoiding the truth. It may have appeared ordinary to everyone around them, but inside their heart, it felt like a sudden light entering a locked room. Someone mentioned love. A familiar song began to play. They saw a place that reminded them of you. They noticed another person receiving the kind of care they once received from you. Whatever the moment was, it awakened something they could no longer dismiss. They realized that the connection they had been comparing everything else to was the connection they shared with you. That realization did not bring immediate comfort. It brought regret. They began remembering the moments when you tried to understand them, even while they were confused about themselves. They remembered the patience you offered when they could not explain what was happening within them. They remembered small details you may have assumed they forgot. The way you noticed their mood before they said anything. The way your presence softened their defenses. The way you made them feel seen without demanding that they perform or pretend. Those memories have become impossible for them to treat casually, because they now recognize how rare that kind of emotional safety truly was. Your soulmate has an important message for you, and the first part of it is this. They are sorry for the silence that made you question your worth. They know there were moments when you searched for answers within yourself, wondering whether you had said too much, cared too deeply, or expected something that was never real. They know their uncertainty may have made you feel as though your love was a burden. But your love was never the burden. Their unhealed fears were. Your sincerity touched places within them that they had spent years protecting, and instead of moving closer, they stepped back because they did not know how to receive something so genuine. Do not mistake this message as permission to abandon your wisdom or forget what you have learned. Heaven is not asking you to chase anyone, beg for clarity, or reopen every door without discernment. You are being shown the truth so that you no longer carry blame that does not belong to you. Their silence was not proof that you were unlovable. Their hesitation was not evidence that you were too much. In many ways, you awakened a depth within them that they had never learned to hold. They felt drawn to you, but that attraction also revealed the parts of themselves they had avoided healing. To love you honestly, they knew they would have to become honest with themselves. This is where the message becomes more mysterious. Something has changed in them recently. The person who once ran from emotional truth has begun questioning the life they were building without you. They have looked around at what appears stable and asked why it still feels incomplete. They have smiled in front of others while carrying a private ache. They have tried to convince themselves that time would erase the connection, but time has done something unexpected. Instead of weakening the memory of you, it has removed distractions and revealed what remained underneath. They are beginning to understand that missing you is not only about wanting your attention. It is about missing the version of themselves that appeared when they were near you. Around you, they felt a possibility they could not name. They felt as though they could become softer without becoming weak, honest without being judged, and hopeful without feeling foolish. You reflected something back to them that they had forgotten existed. When they withdrew, they did not only move away from you. They also moved away from that awakened part of themselves. Now, that part is calling them back. There is a sentence they have rehearsed privately. They have imagined saying it to you more than once. Sometimes they picture speaking it face to face. Sometimes they imagine sending it in a message late at night, when courage finally becomes stronger than fear. They have typed words and deleted them. They have opened your conversation and closed it again. They have wondered whether you would answer immediately, whether you would need time, or whether your silence would mirror the silence they once gave you. Yet the sentence remains inside them, growing louder. The message begins with an admission: I did not understand what you meant to me until I felt the absence of what only you gave me. Those may not be the exact words they eventually use, but this is the truth beneath everything they are trying to express. They want you to know that your presence was not ordinary. The care you offered was not forgotten. the connection was not imagined. They may have tried to reduce it to timing, chemistry, coincidence, or temporary emotion, but their heart has refused every explanation that removes your significance. Something happened recently that deepened this realization. Your soulmate witnessed a conversation, an event, or a decision that made them imagine a future in which you were no longer available to them. Perhaps they heard that you were changing, growing, moving forward, or becoming emotionally stronger. Perhaps they sensed your energy withdrawing from the place where you once waited. This possibility shook them more than they expected. Until that moment, some part of them believed there would always be more time. More time to think. More time to heal. More time to return when they felt ready. But suddenly, they understood that your life has not been standing still. That realization created urgency. Not panic, but the kind of urgency that arrives when the soul recognizes that hesitation has consequences. They began asking themselves what would happen if someone else saw your value clearly. What would happen if another person offered you the consistency they were afraid to give? What would happen if you found peace so complete that their return could no longer disturb or excite you? These questions have forced them to face a truth they avoided. They do not want to become a lesson you had to survive before meeting the person who chooses you without fear. Yet there is something they are still hiding, and this is why you must not leave before the message is complete. Their important confession is not only about missing you. It is connected to a choice they are preparing to make. For some time, they have been standing between two paths. One path allows them to remain protected, silent, and emotionally distant. It asks nothing of them except that they continue pretending. The other path requires courage. It requires accountability. It requires them to step toward you without knowing whether you will welcome them. Heaven has watched them wrestle with this decision. There have been moments when they nearly chose silence again. Fear reminded them of every reason the connection might fail. Pride told them that reaching out would make them vulnerable. Doubt suggested that perhaps too much time had passed. But then something stronger rose within them. A memory of your eyes. A moment when you believed in them. A sense that losing you through honest effort would be painful, but losing you because they never tried would remain with them far longer. You may be feeling a strange emotional shift as you hear this. Perhaps your heart has been restless without an obvious reason. Perhaps you have dreamed of them, remembered them suddenly, or felt a wave of emotion that seemed to arrive from nowhere. In this fictional spiritual story, such moments symbolize a connection moving beneath the surface. They do not demand that you abandon reason. They invite you to pay attention to what your own heart is revealing. You have been changing too, and your change is part of why this moment matters. You are no longer the same person who once waited endlessly for someone else to decide your value. You have been learning that love should not require you to disappear. You have begun reclaiming pieces of yourself that became lost in uncertainty. Even if your progress has felt slow, heaven has seen every quiet victory. Every time you chose peace instead of overthinking. Every time you resisted the urge to chase an explanation. Every time you reminded yourself that another person's confusion could not define your worth. These changes have shifted the energy of the connection. Your soulmate can sense, in some way, that you are no longer standing in the same emotional place. They feel that the door they assumed would remain open forever may now require honesty to approach. This has not made their feelings weaker. It has made them more serious. They are beginning to understand that they cannot return with vague promises, half-spoken emotions, or temporary attention. They know that if they come toward you, they must bring something more truthful than what they offered before. The message they want to give you contains an apology, but it also contains a promise they are afraid to make until they know they can keep it. They want to tell you that they are trying to become someone who no longer runs when love becomes real. They want to tell you that they have started looking honestly at the fears that controlled their choices. They want to tell you that they are no longer satisfied with a life built around emotional avoidance. But there is one part of their confession that even they have not fully accepted yet. They have realized that their feelings for you did not disappear when the connection became quiet. The feelings changed shape. They moved from excitement into reflection, from longing into recognition, from confusion into truth. They have carried you into places where your name was never spoken. They have compared new conversations to the depth they felt with you. They have noticed the absence of your warmth in rooms filled with people. And the more they tried to live as though you were only a chapter that had ended, the more their heart returned to the unfinished sentence between you. Do not skip what comes next, because this is where the revelation becomes personal. There was a moment when your soulmate defended you without your knowledge. Someone may have questioned you, misunderstood your intentions, or spoken about the connection in a way that did not honor what they knew to be true. In the past, your soulmate might have remained quiet. But this time, something within them refused. They spoke differently. They protected the memory of what you shared. They did not reveal everything, yet their reaction exposed more than they intended. Afterward, they were left alone with the meaning of what they had done. Why had they felt such a strong need to defend you? Why did the thought of others misunderstanding you affect them so deeply? Why did your name still awaken loyalty in them after all this time? That moment became another mirror. It showed them that their heart had already made a decision their mind was still trying to delay. The truth is that they have been more emotionally connected to you than they allowed themselves to admit. They may have appeared composed, but their private world tells another story. They have imagined what they would say if they had one honest conversation with you. They have replayed the last meaningful exchange between you. They have wondered whether you noticed the things they could not say. They have questioned whether your heart still feels anything when their name appears. Yet your journey is not meant to become trapped inside their uncertainty. This message is arriving not to place you back in waiting, but to prepare you for clarity. Whether their confession comes exactly as they imagine or life reveals the truth in another way, you are being asked to remain rooted in your dignity. You do not need to shrink your standards to make their courage easier. You do not need to prove that you are still available. The love meant for you must be able to meet the person you have become. Your soulmate knows this. That is why their message feels so urgent. They sense that you are entering a new chapter, one in which you will no longer accept affection without action. They feel that something around you is opening, a new opportunity, a new confidence, perhaps even the possibility of a new connection. This awareness has forced them to confront the cost of remaining silent. They do not want to interrupt your healing selfishly, but they also do not want fear to make the final decision for them. There is a reason this message had to reach you today. A choice is approaching. It may not arrive with thunder or dramatic signs. It may come through a simple message, an unexpected conversation, a mutual connection, or a moment that finally reveals what has been hidden. When it arrives, your first reaction may be disbelief. You may wonder why now, after so much silence. You may feel the old emotions rise beside the new strength you have built. That moment will test not whether you still care, but whether you can care without abandoning yourself. The person connected to this story has been thinking about one particular memory. It is not necessarily the most dramatic moment you shared. It may be something small. Something you said casually, a kindness you offered when they were struggling, or a moment when you looked at them as though you could see behind every wall. They dismissed its importance then. Now they understand that the moment stayed because it contained a kind of truth they had rarely experienced. They want to return to that truth, but they know they cannot return to the past exactly as it was. Too much has changed. You have changed. They have changed. The connection can only move forward if it becomes more honest than before. This is why their message is not simply, "I miss you." Missing you is only the surface. Beneath it is a deeper admission, "I am beginning to understand why meeting you changed me, and I am afraid I waited too long to tell you." But there is still one hidden detail. Something they recently discovered has pushed them closer to speaking. It is connected to you, but not in the way you might expect. They learned something about what you endured during the silence. Perhaps they realized how deeply their actions affected you. Perhaps someone revealed that you had defended them even while you were hurting. Perhaps they discovered that you never hated them, even when you had every reason to close your heart. Whatever they learned, it broke through the story they had been telling themselves. They had assumed you were stronger than their absence, and you were. But they confused your strength with the absence of pain. Now they understand that you carried more than you showed. They see that your quietness was not indifference. It was dignity. Your distance was not punishment. It was survival. Your healing was not proof that the connection meant nothing. It was proof that you finally chose not to let uncertainty consume you. This realization has filled them with both admiration and regret. They admire the way you continued becoming who you were meant to be. They regret that they were not brave enough to stand beside you while that transformation happened. And now, there is something they want to offer, not as a demand, not as an expectation, but as a truth they feel you deserve to hear. They want to tell you what really happened during the moment they began pulling away. You may have believed one explanation. Others may have suggested another. You may have blamed timing, another person, fear, pride, or a loss of feeling. But the truth is more vulnerable than any of those possibilities. They did not step back because they felt nothing. They stepped back because something happened inside them when they realized the connection could become real. For the first time, they saw a future rather than a passing emotion. They imagined you becoming part of their everyday life, not only their private thoughts. They imagined being known by you over time. They imagined having to show you the parts of themselves they kept hidden from everyone else. And instead of feeling only joy, they felt exposed. The possibility of being deeply loved brought them face to face with the fear of being deeply seen. That fear made them hesitate. Their hesitation created distance. The distance wounded you. And the wound became the silence neither of you knew how to cross. But now, your soulmate has reached the point where the pain of avoidance is becoming greater than the fear of honesty. They are standing closer to the truth than they have ever stood before. Something extraordinary is waiting at the edge of this story, but it cannot be revealed all at once. There is one final piece of the message they have not yet found the courage to send. It is the part that explains why they have been watching for the right moment, why they have been asking about you indirectly, and why a decision made very recently has changed the direction of everything. Tonight, or in the days close to this message, they may return to the words they have written and erased. They may look at your name longer than usual. They may remember the promise they silently made to themselves after learning the truth about what you endured. And for the first time, they may choose not to close the conversation. Because the message they are preparing does not end with an apology. It ends with a question. And the answer to that question could reopen the door between you, or close it forever. But before they ask it, they must reveal the secret they have been hiding about the day they walked away, and when you discover what truly happened in that moment, you will understand why they have never been able to forget you.